The legislature is back from its summer recess, yet everything is getting held up still. And that seems to be because political power is far more important than any individual piece of legislation that could be happening. So we're going to talk about gerrymandering. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. The kids are back in, recess is over, and what today's video was supposed to be about was going over the two-way legislation that's still on the move and still on the board for us to advocate for and against. Although with the first appropriations meeting happening yesterday, that being the Senate appropriations meeting, we didn't get a whole lot. So these bills are still on the table because apparently there is just something that is way, way more important than any individual piece of legislation that could be on the table today, and that is political power for the future. We still want to go over these bills, though, so to walk us through all of this today, we have brought back on CRPA's legislative director. You can also find him on AM 590, The Answer. He is the host of Firing Line Radio Show that airs every Saturday at 1 p.m. That, of course, is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
No, thank you for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely. And as always, guys, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps the channel out. It really helps get this information out as far and wide as possible. And guys, I know that some of you asked for it. A lot of you maybe didn't ask for it, but want to see it anyways. The merch shop is now open. So go ahead and click that down below. See some CRPA merch that is available for purchase now. It just became active. And of course, as time goes on, we are going to be adding to that merch shop. But go check it out. You get yourself a hoodie or a shirt or a mug or anything else that ends up coming on that shop in the future. So, Rick, I guess I don't necessarily want to start on the result for yesterday's appropriations meeting. I do still think it's important for us to go over what is still on the table. What was on the calendar to be discussed yesterday in the Senate appropriations meeting was Assembly Bill 1127. That's the Glock ban bill. Assembly Bill 1263. That is the ghost gun bill. And then, of course, Assembly Bill 1078, which has to do with some CCW regulations as well as imposing the 3-gun-a-month rule on us. So we've talked in the past. You've talked about the budget being an issue. What was it? What were you expecting going into those appropriations meetings yesterday to happen to these bills? And then also, like, what happened in that meeting? Why aren't we discussing the results of that appropriations meeting as opposed to looking towards next week?
Yeah, so we just came back from the recess yesterday, and the whole concept of the recess is a time where obviously people take some summer vacations, they go back to their respective districts, they meet with their constituents. But of course, we have a governor who has designs on becoming president. No matter how many times he denies it, people need to wake up and realize that's the fact. And so he has chosen several times, this community knows, to basically oppose anything Texas does, because somehow that has become the right of the California governor to try to counter everything Texas does. That's never happened before in the history of state, but he's made it a policy of his for the past couple of years. And so what we expected was what normally would happen. We would go into the assembly. If there were some bills that they either had the money for, they would move. Sorry, guys. Sorry. What we expected was that we would see bills that would come forward that they felt they had the money to pass, because that's what appropriations is about. Do they have the money or don't they? They would move those bills forward. If there were some bills that were in question, they might put them on suspense, which all the listeners should be familiar with, which is a timeout, and we'll deal with it next week. And then, there would be those that would just be flat out killed at this point. We weren't sure how that was going to play out with the budget crisis that we have, where we're billions and billions of dollars in debt. But we were kind of curious. And plus we had some things like, let's just take 1078, the last bill you talked about. Yes, there's some CCW issues, but one of the biggest issues is the 3 and 30. We realized that the state did not get their en banc. And so the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals victory in Nguyen v. Bonta holds that you can't put limitations on firearm purchases. So whether that's 1 and 30, 2 and 30, 7 and 30, it doesn't matter. So 3 and 30 is not going to hold. So we were curious how that was going to play out. And instead, because of the governor's plans, he's got 3 different pieces of legislation that he's trying to slam through before Friday, because that is the last day he can get this done, to have the Secretary of State call the special election on politically rigging California, which is going to make him look more like a dictator of a third world country than the governor of arguably one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful state in the union. And that's what's at play. So what they ended up doing was sweeping up all but like maybe a half a dozen bills across the way and said everything else goes into suspense. And there's a good chance the same thing will happen in the Assembly on Wednesday with some of the Senate bills that are outstanding. And then all of that will be neatly packed away and brought out the last minute, probably with zero pre-testimony or in-process testimony, which we're very familiar with. And they'll probably allow for some comments at the end of the day, but they will literally pass hundreds and hundreds of bills within a couple of hours.
Well, and you do make a good point there. The Nguyen v. Bonta lawsuit did not get the en banc panel that the state was seeking, producing a mandate, which we've already discussed the opinion of the Ninth Circuit three-judge panel, but it now produces a mandate saying that limiting purchases of firearms and firearms parts, or just firearms, to one per month is unconstitutional. So specifically in that bill 1078, obviously if it does pass, there's going to be some litigation there with a lot of precedent, a lot of recent precedent stacked behind it. But
And I want to stop you there. I mean, that was part of, I mean, we got denied the chance to speak this morning, but I mean, that was part of the speech that was going to go out this morning on 1078 in particular was, look, you have a budget crisis. You don't have the money for this. To burden the taxpayers with literally another $1 million lawsuit because the taxpayers pay the state's bills to sue and then pay for the NGO, in this case CRPA or another 2A organization or a group of them to sue. By the time it gets done with the Ninth Circuit, you're way deep into the six digits. And then if it goes on up to like, a couple of our other bills do, towards the Supreme Court, then you're going to top $1 million when you figure on the cost on both sides. And we're like, and you keep getting the same thing. It was unconstitutional. It was unconstitutional. And we were prepped for that debate today and never got to have it because, well, the governor's shenanigans has wrapped the entire legislature in a different zone.
And I'm sure that they intend fully on making the firearms community spend that money, those taxpayers spending that money. But let's talk about a different way they want to spend taxpayer money, which is the reason why these bills didn't get discussed today. And that is the good old-fashioned gerrymandering that Gavin Newsom wants to put in. So can you go ahead and explain exactly what's happening here with these new maps? Is this an unprecedented thing? You mentioned that they're trying to. I mean, it's not within the 10-year cycle that's really given to drawing district maps. Can you explain exactly what's on the board here and what we should be watching for, and if we can do anything about it? How does this process actually work?
Well, one, I'm hoping everybody watching this video becomes absolutely outraged, talks to as many people as they can, and takes part in both your one-click politics campaigns as well as just raising holy what with their legislators and their legislative staff. Because here's the first thing. There's a thing that to say it correctly, I want to make sure I call it. Yeah, it's called the ACA 8. And it's a constitutional amendment. And what I want people to realize is we have a state constitution that takes the vote of the people. But before they even get there, we've got the legislator already calling to allow changes to the Constitution to put a new congressional map. And this congressional map's not a one-off. I mean, governor's trying to be really slick, but let me explain what the current status is. We have a census. The census tells us where everybody is at. And then congressional districts are done by a nonpartisan committee by the will of the people that was voted into law as part of the Constitution of the state of California. Now, we all know that when Prop 63 went through and a lot of people were like, whoops, we didn't want that. We have not been allowed to do anything at the state level in the legislature to go, oopsie, we want to go this direction. We can't do that. That's exactly what the governor's doing with this, Kevin. He is saying, not only does he want to change the outcome of the midterms in 2026, but in 2028 for the next presidential, and again in 2030 before anybody can do anything about it. So he really wants to change 3 different election cycles. And he's like, look, I don't care what people say. I don't care what the last election results say. I don't care about any of that stuff suggesting that more of the state is red or pink. It is all solid blue. And you know what? I'm going to prove it to you because I'm going to make it solid blue. And so you see him going after districts like Congressman Doug LaMalfa, which is up and has like Modoc and Redding. But under this new thing, it's going to cut all the way down the coast, and he's grabbing every Democratic stronghold he can all the way down to North San Francisco Bay. Anybody looking at this any kind of logic is going to say, okay, so what do farming ag people have to do with people in the North Bay, and how do you balance it out? Because a congressperson doesn't just represent a party, they represent the needs of a specific geographic area. But then again, you go and you can look at Kevin Kiley, who the governor obviously has a beef with, and he has got this thin little line because he has to leave Kevin's house, Representative Kiley's house, inside of his district. He can't like change the district so Kiley doesn't live there. And so he's drawn this very thin line and then sucks up as many Democratic votes to throw Kiley out of office. People have to wake up. This is like watching a third world dictator go, yep, I won 100%. Well, yeah, because you're being maniacal. And to enforce that whole thing are 2 other pieces of legislation. One is AB 604, the map. And if you go look at the map, there is no way, I don't care if you're a Democrat, an independent, or Republican, you cannot look at that map and go, oh, that's fair or that's representative. It's absolutely not. So I guess if you're a far left, you're like, okay, whatever, but give me a break. There's 9 Republicans to like 40 plus. I mean, we are so outnumbered in the state, and that's still not good enough because it's something another state is proposing that they haven't even done yet. We're gonna squash the will of our own people because of something that's happened 1,000 miles away. Like that makes no sense. And then the final piece to all of this is a Senate Bill 280, which says, yes, we're hundreds of, and I want to make this point, we're near $100 billion in debt, but you know what? 260 million more, another $250 million. Yeah, we don't have the money, but we could just pass that along to the taxpayer too, so that a handful of people at the top, namely Gavin Newsom, can create a super democratic state and use that to run for the presidency of the United States.
Sold. All right. Well, definitely need to do a deeper dive onto this. So I'll start digging into the books. And Rick, I mean, maybe we can have you on again next week and talk more specifically about the maps, what they're doing, why they're doing it. I mean, the overall reasoning is pretty clear, right? It's political power that they're searching for. It is a direct combat. It is in direct combat with what Texas is doing, which we've already seen to a lesser degree with legislation in the past. But I would really like to dig in with you on that. But I mean, as far as money is concerned, let's continue talking about the money. We were already kind of hopeful that some of these bills might not make it through because of the budget situation. Now, on top of that, you're adding another $250 million. If these bills in the Senate Appropriations Committee meeting didn't happen today, they are happening next week. Does this potentially even put more stress on the budget when considering these gun control?
There's 2 arguments that are going on right now. And I can't even tell you because I've went back and forth. Argument A says that, and a lot of people are going to go, yeah, I can see that happening. And that is if he's able to get 2/3 of the legislature to vote these 3 things in, then they'll probably just go ahead and put the far left will push these bills through and say, well, if we didn't have the money and we came up with imaginary money for these 3 things called the redistricting mayhem, then why not? And they'll just saddle us with more debt. Then there's the other side that says, no, they might kill 1 or 2 of these bills, like 1078, given the Nguyen v. Bonta decision, and they'll let the others roll. So it's going to be really interesting. The thing that I think people have to realize is their voice in the capital of representation is being silenced while they're being redistricting. So if they do not see this as a major power grab that is happening this week, because he's got to get it done by the close of business Friday, or it doesn't happen, that has become the battle here in Sacramento.
Well, I guess one thing we can do is continue to try to make ourselves heard. The emails have already gone out, guys. You've already seen them. If you don't get those emails, we've got links in the description below to some of these campaigns to fight for our Second Amendment rights. And I guess, Rick, the last thing that I wanted to talk with you about is what's going to go on tomorrow. Because while the Senate appropriations was supposed to happen on Monday, we are still supposed to have the Assembly appropriations. And over there, you've actually got a couple of bad bills and a couple of good bills. You've got 704, which is forcing background checks on firearms barrels. You've got Senate Bill 248. Which is, really, it's going to end up being propaganda sent to new gun owners from exempt purchases. But you've also got Senate Bill 55, which is giving a free usage of state parks to Gold Star family members, as well as Senate Bill 718, which would reduce some fees for hunting and fishing licenses. Do we expect the same on Wednesday as we got on Monday, or do we see the Assembly appropriations tomorrow ultimately go through these bills?
Well, what depends on what happens the rest of the day and early tomorrow morning. Um, you know, saying that they're still in the fight for AC8 and these other two bills that both do the funding and the mapping for the governor's plans. We could see an exact copy and watch, everything get pushed into suspense. The other thing that I think we will see is if that doesn't happen, what we'll probably see is Senate Bill 704 and 248 move forward, even though they're absolutely unconstitutional and are absolutely a burden on the taxpayer and further far left shenanigans. And we will see the death of Senate Bills 55 and 718 because they will make, and this is what I want people to watch, they're going to look at Gold Star families whose family member paid the ultimate price by cashing in that check payable with their life to defend this country. They're going to say, oh, that costs too much money after they spent $260 billion for an illegal gerrymandering. And they'll say the same thing about giving a reduced cost license to several people that really cost the department nothing, but they will claim that in this budget crisis, they just can't do it. And so you're going to get to see just how manipulative they are with the budget, that when it's to their advantage, they will squash the hopes of the people. And when they want to oppress people, money means nothing.
Well, that truly would be a shame. We're going to advocate for it nonetheless. I guess my last thought to you, Rick, is final thoughts on the gerrymandering. And I definitely want to go into this deeper next week. But as far as we know now, what is the actual process of passing this through? You're kind of making it sound like there is not going to be I guess I'll use the word that the Democrats like to use, which is a Democratic vote. Is this just going to be a vote of the legislature? Is there any, and what is the best way to advocate against this at the end of the day?
Yes, the best way to advocate is always go through the one-click politics that you provide to everybody. Call your members' offices, tell them to stop this. You do not want this. So this is the process. They are going to go through and they're going to have to get 2/3 of the vote in both houses and then a final vote to pass these. The governor's pulling out all the stops to try to make this happen. So we don't have to get 51% of the vote. We just have to prevent that 67% of the vote to stop these. And the issue is if we don't, then this will go into a special election in November that goes to the ballot. And I guarantee the governor's going to do everything to try to hoodwink as many Californians in this. He is already piling on, like, if we don't do this, the sky is falling, the Chicken Little campaign that he's got so good, clutching his man pearls and doing all that kind of stuff to try to make people feel like he's defending them when he's not. He is setting himself up to become president of the United States. And that's all he's doing. He is not working for the people of California. And so I think it's time for us to say enough. He's a lame duck governor, and don't give him the ability to have this power. Take it back from him. He works for us.
definitely something to follow along with and continue to advocate for. Rick, I do appreciate the time. Look forward to the next video. Thanks for coming on and sharing today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, if you like videos like this, you want to continue and see more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the videos. It really helps with the algorithm. Get this out as far and wide as possible. We're going to have to do this one as a collective, you guys. We got to tell the legislature that we do not like being treated this way. We want to be represented fairly. And from now on, I guess, I usually say as always, but from now on, guys, check out the merch down below, because the proceeds from that goes to fights just like this, also with Second Amendment in the legislature, as well as through litigation. So that can really help as well. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you on the next one.